I paid for my fiancée's dream house. Then her distant brother showed up and she demanded I put him on the deed. Later, I took back the ring and kicked her out when I found out who he really was. I 30 male met Sarah, 26 female when I was 25, and she was this shy new girl working behind the counter of my favorite greasy spoon diner. You know those places slightly dingy coffee that tastes like regret and pancakes that somehow slap every single time? My buddy Ryan and I would hit it up after work, half for the food, half to rant about life. The day I first saw Sarah, though, I barely noticed Ryan's whining about his boss. There was tying her apron, looking perfect, big brown eyes, dark hair tucked into a messy ponytail, and a smile that could fix a bad day. My order came out as scrambled sentences because my brain decided to short-circuit when she said, "What can I get you?" in that sweet voice of hers. Ryan, of course, noticed, "Dude, stop being weird. If you're into her, just say something." I wasn't exactly smooth back then. The thought of walking up and being shot down in front of Ryan, who would 100% roast me, didn't sit well. Instead, I fumbled for a napkin and scrolled out my name and number with my garbage handwriting. I can still remember how my palms were sweaty when I paid for our food and slipped the note over. She blushed, actually blushed when she realized what I'd done. "She's not going to call," Ryan snorted as we left, but guess what she did that same night? We ended up talking on the phone for hours. I couldn't tell you what about, probably dumb stuff like favorite movies or her hatred for pineapple on pizza, but I remember it felt easy, natural, like I'd known her for years, even though I'd barely seen her outside of a diner counter. By the time we hung up at 3 a.m., I was already half smitten. Over the next few months, Sarah and I were inseparable. She had this way of making every small thing feel like a big deal. We'd walk through the park, she'd point out every stray cat and give it an imaginary name. We'd hit up cheap diners, and she'd try to guess my order before I said it. It wasn't about flashy dates or extravagant plans. Being with her just made everything better. I'd been in relationships before, but nothing like this. Nothing real. With Sarah, I felt like I could finally breathe. It's cliché, I know, but when you meet someone who feels like home, you stop looking elsewhere. Looking back, there were cracks in the perfect picture, even then subtle, but there. Sarah didn't talk much about her family except to say she didn't have one. She was raised in the foster system, bouncing from home to home until she aged out. It made sense why she was guarded at first, and honestly, my heart broke for her. I grew up with 2 loving parents, an older sister, and a dog that still gets Christmas presents. Stability was my normal, but for Sarah, it was a foreign concept. The one thing she did talk about was her brother Mark. She said Mark wasn't her biological brother, but someone she'd met in foster care. They'd been close since childhood, and he was her only family. I didn't question it too hard. I mean, if you grew up without parents or siblings, clinging to someone who understood you makes sense, right? She would tell me stories about how Mark always looked out for her when no one else did, standing up to bullies, sneaking her snacks in group homes, comforting her when she had no one else. At first, I admired it. I thought it was sweet. How could you not root for someone who fought through hell and still had someone to lean on? But slowly, her brotherly bond with Mark started to feel off. I didn't want to admit it at first, but the dude's presence was everywhere. Sarah talked about him non-stop. He'd call her every night no matter what we were doing, and she'd always pick up. Dinner dates, movies, random evenings, cuddled on the couch. If Mark called, our time was put on pause. One night, after months of dating, I asked her point blank, "Why does he call you so much?" She tilted her head and looked at me like I'd grown a second nose. "Because we're close, duh, he's my brother, you wouldn't get it." Okay, fine, maybe I wouldn't get it because my older sister and I weren't calling each other 24/7, but whatever. I wasn't about to ruin a good thing over something minor. Relationships are about trust, right? I trusted Sarah. Things started to feel more questionable when I FaceTimed her late one night. It was just supposed to be a quick good-night call since she'd been working late shifts at the diner. Instead, the camera panned to Mark, shirtless, sprawled right next to her in her bed. "What the heck is Mark doing there?" I asked, feeling my stomach drop. Sarah rolled her eyes like I was the crazy one. "Relax, he's going through a bad breakup and didn't want to sleep alone. My bed's bigger than the couch, so I let him crash here. It's not a big deal. You're telling me your brother, not your real brother, mind you, is just sharing your bed and that's normal to you?" She scoffed. "God, you sound jealous. It's Mark. He's family. You'd understand if you were close to your sister." I let it go, but it didn't sit right with me. Things got more serious. When Sarah's lease was ending, she didn't have much money because she was between jobs. One night over takeout, she brought it up. "I was thinking maybe I could move in with you." I hesitated, not because I didn't want her there, I did, but because moving in meant bigger commitments, financial ones especially. But she hit me with those big brown eyes and said I'd feel safer with you. You know I don't have anywhere else to go. Boom done. The girl had me wrapped around her finger. Sarah moved in a week later. I covered everything: rent, utilities, groceries. She said she'd contribute when she got a better job, but of course that never happened. I didn't mind at first because I loved her. I wanted to take care of her. But the constant calls from Mark, the way she drove everything to see him, the weird closeness, I couldn't put my finger on it. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. I should have known that my dream girl was hiding something massive. When Sarah moved in with me, I was honestly thrilled at first. I mean, I'd spent years in that house alone. It felt like the natural next step for us. She'd finally have stability, and we'd get to spend more time together. I had a 6-figure income, a nice house with plenty of room, and I figured why not? I didn't want to be the guy who nickel and dimes his girlfriend when I knew her financial situation was crap. So I told her not to worry about rent or bills. I'd handle it. That was mistake number one, because once Sarah realized she didn't need to contribute anything, it was like she settled into queen mode. Suddenly, our place wasn't my house anymore. It was ours. She redecorated without asking, threw out some of my stuff because it didn't match her vibe, and invited her brother Mark over whenever she darn well pleased. Now, I wasn't thrilled about Mark's constant presence, but at first I tried to make an effort. Sarah wanted me to get along with him, so I figured, sure, I'll play nice. I bought some drinks, ordered pizza, and let him come over for a weekend. The first time Mark showed up, though, I knew something was off. This guy didn't walk into my house like a guest. He strutted in like he owned the place. Didn't shake my hand, didn't say thank you when I offered him a drink. Heck, he barely even looked at me. He just dropped his duffel bag in the middle of my living room, sprawled on the couch like he was claiming it, and barked, "Hey Sarah, grab me a drink." I literally did a double take. Sarah, instead of calling him out for being a rude ass, smiled and said, "Sure, Marky." Marky the dude was a full-grown adult and acting like a toddler demanding juice boxes. Meanwhile, I'm just standing there holding the beer I bought, wondering why this guy was acting like I was the intruder in my own home. It only got worse from there. The weekend was a total nightmare. Mark had no concept of boundaries. He would follow Sarah around the house, sit way too close to her on the couch, and laugh obnoxiously loud at every single thing she said, even if it wasn't remotely funny. I'd be sitting right there next to them, third-wheeling in my own relationship. At one point, Sarah got up to grab snacks, leaving us alone for maybe 30 seconds. Mark just stared at me with this smug look on his face like he was sizing me up. "You're lucky," he finally muttered. I blinked. Huh. He leaned back, still staring me down. Sarah's always had someone looking after her. First me, now you. Good thing, too, she doesn't handle being alone well. The way he said it like he was still her guardian or something made my skin crawl. Before I could respond, Sarah walked back in, and Mark switched back to his charming brother act. That night, I told Sarah I wasn't comfortable with Mark staying over again. Her reaction, total meltdown. "You don't get it," she snapped. "Mark's been through so much and he doesn't have anyone else. He needs me." I rubbed my temples, trying to stay calm. "Sarah, he doesn't need to be here every weekend, and the way he talks to you, it's weird." Her eyes narrowed like I'd insulted her personally. "We're close because we've been through hell together. Sorry if you don't know what that's like." She stormed off, and I was left wondering how trying to set a boundary in my own house turned into me being the bad guy. The next time Mark showed up uninvited, it was under the guise of just crashing for one night. I gritted my teeth and let it slide, because what was I supposed to do, tell my girlfriend's brother to get lost? Around midnight, I walked into our bedroom ready to crash, only to find Sarah curled up next to Mark on the couch where he should have been sleeping alone. "Sarah," I said, trying not to explode, "why aren't you in bed?" She looked up like I was crazy. "Mark's not feeling great, so I'm keeping him company." I stared at her. Why does keeping him company mean sharing a couch? He's a grown man, not a kid, afraid of the dark. She rolled her eyes. "You're making this into something it's not. Go to bed. I'll come up in a bit." Well, she didn't. I spent that whole night tossing and turning, trying to ignore the anger boiling in my chest. The next morning, when I brought it up again, she pulled the classic Sarah defense. "You're just jealous, aren't you? He's my brother. Stop being insecure." She said it with so much confidence that I started questioning myself. Was I overreacting? Was I the jealous boyfriend who didn't get their special bond? I wasn't. I knew something wasn't right, but every time I brought it up, she flipped it on me. Gaslighting at its finest. If Mark wasn't physically in our house, he was calling Sarah constantly. We'd be in the middle of a movie and her phone would ring. She'd glance at it, mutter, "It's just Mark," and pick up for 30 minutes, sometimes longer. It didn't matter what we were doing, cooking dinner, hanging out with friends, even in bed. If Mark called, everything stopped for him. One night, I finally snapped. Why does he call you so much? It's like he's attached to your hip. Sarah sighed dramatically, like I was exhausting her. He's going through a rough time. I'm the only one he has. Sarah, I'm supposed to be the only one you have. She glared at me. I can't believe you're making me choose between you and my brother. I wasn't making her choose anything. I was just trying to figure out why her not really brother had VIP access to every part of her life, including mine. By this point, my patience was wearing thin. I told myself I needed to trust her to let it go, but deep down, I felt like I was being played for a fool. After 2 years of living with Sarah, I was on the edge between Mark's constant intrusions and Sarah's refusal to see any issue with it. I started keeping a mental list of all the weird crap I'd let slide. If you looked up doormat in the dictionary, there'd probably be a picture of me, but no more. I'd had enough. Around this time, my finances were in a really good place. I'd worked my ass off to get to where I was, long hours, late nights, and sacrifices Sarah didn't have to make because I covered everything. My house was fully paid off, and I had enough saved to buy us a new place, our dream house. I thought this would be the perfect fresh start. I'll admit it, part of me hoped that moving into a new place would magically fix everything. No more Mark showing up uninvited, no more awkward tension, and no more late-night calls that ended with Sarah whispering in the hallway like she was keeping state secrets. So I made the call. I reached out to a realtor, looked over my finances, and started browsing listings. I found a gorgeous property about an hour outside the city, big backyard, huge kitchen, and even an office space for Sarah since she'd started working from home. When I told her the news, she practically jumped into my arms. "You're the best fiancé in the world," she said, hugging me tight. "I can't wait to start the next chapter with you." For the first time in months, I let myself believe we could fix this. I was stupidly optimistic like an idiot. I let my guard down. After weeks of house hunting, Sarah and I finally found the one. This place was perfect: white picket fence, a massive backyard for BBQs, and a kitchen that made me want to pretend I could cook. I was ready to sign the papers that week. Then Sarah hit me with the demand. "Hey," she started, sweetly curling up next to me on the couch. That fake sweetness usually meant she was about to ask for something ridiculous. "When you put the house deed together, I was thinking you should add Mark's name too." I actually laughed, thinking I'd misheard her. "What?" She blinked innocently. "Mark's name on the house deed. Now I'm no pushover anymore." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Sarah, are you high? Why the heck would I put Mark's name on my house?" She didn't like that. "It's our house," she shot back, folding her arms, "and Mark's family. He's been there for me when no one else was. I want him included." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd tolerated a lot, but this number, absolutely not. "So let me get this straight. You're asking me to buy a house with my own money, and instead of just you and me, you want to slap your brother's name on it too?" "Why? What's he done to deserve that?" Her voice rose a notch. "He's family. You don't get it because you've had a perfect life, but I don't have anyone else. Adding Mark makes me feel secure." I wasn't budging. "Sarah, I'm marrying you, not Mark. You want to include him in your life, fine, but he's not touching my house. End of story." That's when the tears started her go-to move. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "This is why I can't trust anyone. Everyone leaves me except Mark. You're supposed to be different." I stared at her, disgusted. "This isn't about trust. It's about you trying to con me into handing over part of my house to your brother, and I'm not stupid enough to fall for it." The argument went on for hours. Sarah alternated between crying, screaming, and trying to guilt-trip me into giving in, but for once I stood my ground. I'd been gaslit enough, and this was where I drew the line. The next week, I couldn't stop thinking about how insane her demand was. I didn't tell anyone, not my sister, not my parents, because I didn't want them thinking less of Sarah. I was still holding on to hope that maybe this was just a weird phase. Then I ran into Katie. Katie was Sarah's best friend from college. She was one of those people who overshares everything, which turned out to be very useful for me. We bumped into each other at a coffee shop near my office, and after some casual small talk, she asked how the wedding planning was going. I shrugged. "We're stuck on a house issue." "What house issue?" she asked, sipping her latte. I sighed and told her about Sarah's demand to put Mark's name on the house deed. Katie's smile froze mid-sip. "Wait, what did you say?" "She wants Mark's name on the deed," I repeated. "She says he's family and she wants him included." Katie put her drink down, her face pale. You don't know, do you? Know what? I asked, my stomach twisting into knots. Katie hesitated like she didn't want to be the one to tell me, but finally she said it. Mark isn't her brother. He's her ex-boyfriend. I froze. What? Yeah, they dated for years when they were in foster care. After they broke up, they started telling people they were siblings to avoid judgment. I thought you knew. I stared at her speechless. My mind raced back to every brotherly hug, every weird sleepover, and every phone call that interrupted our dates. All of it clicked. She's been lying to me this entire time, I asked, my voice flat. Katie winced. I'm so sorry. I thought she told you. I left the coffee shop in a daze, replaying the last 5 years in my head like a movie I suddenly realized was garbage. Mark, the guy I'd been forced to tolerate, wasn't her brother. He was her ex, and she had the audacity to demand I put his name on the house I was paying for. It all made sense now. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. Sarah had been gaslighting me, lying to my face, and dragging me into some bizarre, twisted mess. But here's the thing. I'm not the kind of guy who sits back and lets himself get played. That night, I decided I wasn't going to wait anymore. Sarah had answers to give, and I was done pretending everything was fine. I got home that evening feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. Mark, her ex-boyfriend. I couldn't get those words out of my head. 5 years. 5 darn years she'd been lying to me, and I'd been standing here not listening to my inner voice, defending their close sibling bond. I got home that evening feeling like I'd been stamped in the back. Mark, her ex-boyfriend. I couldn't get those words out of my head. 5 years. 5 darn years she'd been lying to me, and I'd been standing here like an idiot defending their close sibling bond. I walked through the door, and there she was, lounging on my couch with her feet up like she didn't have a care in the world. Hey babe, she said, flipping through Netflix like she hadn't spent the last few years gaslighting me. I dropped my keys on the counter a little harder than I needed to. We need to talk. Sarah glanced over, still annoyingly calm. About what? I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to let her twist this on me, not this time. About you and Mark. Her hand froze midair with the remote. Her face went from relaxed to defensive in half a second flat. What about him? I stared her down. Don't play dumb. I ran into Katie today. She told me the truth. He's not your brother, is he? The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might pass out. Her lips parted and she stammered. What did she say? She told me everything, I said firmly. Mark isn't your brother. He's your ex-boyfriend. The guy you used to date, the guy you've been sneaking around with, lying to me about, and bringing into my house like I'm some kind of idiot. Her face crumpled, but she tried to salvage the situation. It's not what you think. Oh, really? I snapped, folding my arms. Because what I think is that you've been cheating on me, lying to my face, and letting your ex-boyfriend sleep next to you while you gaslit me into thinking I was crazy for questioning it. Sarah jumped off the couch, her eyes wild with panic. I didn't cheat. Mark and I, he's like family now. We haven't been like that in years. I laughed bitterly. Family. You mean the guy you used to date? You think calling him your brother magically makes it less disgusting? It's not disgusting, she yelled, tears starting to form. We were just kids. After we broke up, we realized we were better as family. That's all it is. You're blowing this out of proportion. I wasn't buying it for a second. My gut was telling me there was more. So you're telling me, I said, stepping closer, that you've never done anything with him recently? That all those sleepovers, all those late-night calls, all those times you comforted him? There's nothing else going on. She looked away, biting her lip. I felt my chest tighten. Sarah, look at me. Tell me the truth. Have you slept with Mark recently? There was a long pause. Her silence told me everything. Answer me, I yelled, slamming my fist against the table. She flinched and finally muttered yes a few times. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stared at her, my hands shaking, as her words echoed in my head. A few times I repeated, my voice dangerously low. A few times, you've been sleeping with your ex, the guy you called your brother, while I've been here paying for everything like a darn fool. She broke down sobbing. It didn't mean anything, I swear. It just happened. I was confused, and Mark, he's always been there for me. I didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Oh, it just happened. You didn't mean for it. That's your excuse. You've been lying to me for years, cheating on me, and now you want me to believe it doesn't mean anything. I still love you, she cried, clutching at me like I was the lifeline she was about to lose. It was a mistake, I swear. I shoved her hands away. Don't touch me. The anger boiling in my chest was white hot. I had spent years supporting this woman, paying for her rent, her groceries, her darn existence, and all the while she had been sneaking around with Mark. You know what, Sarah? I said, my voice ice cold. You're pathetic. You had everything I gave you, and you threw it away for some loser who pretends to be your brother. She sobbed harder, collapsing onto the couch like some matic movie scene. You can't leave me. I don't have anyone else. I stared at her, disgusted. That's not my problem anymore. I didn't stop there. I had one more thing to settle. Give me back the engagement ring. Her head shot up. What? No. That ring is a family heirloom, I said firmly. It belonged to my grandmother, and there's no way in heck you're keeping it after what you've done. You gave it to me, she wailed, clutching her hand like I'd asked her to cut it off. It's mine. I leaned closer, my tone deadly calm. You cheated on me, Sarah. You lied to me for 5 years. You've been living in my house on my dime while sneaking around with your ex. You don't get to keep anything. Take it off. She shook her head, but I wasn't playing anymore. Sarah, you're not leaving this house until I have that ring in my hand. So either you take it off or I'll call the cops and explain everything. Your choice. That did it. Sobbing and shaking, she pulled the ring off and slammed it onto the coffee table. You're heartless, she screamed. I pocketed the ring without another word. You have 1 hour to pack your stuff and call a ride. She cried, begged, and tried every manipulation trick she had left, but I didn't care. I was done. When her Uber finally pulled up, she called Mark to come get her first. I heard her begging over the phone, but apparently Mark wanted nothing to do with her drama. Shocker. By the time she dragged her bags to the front door, she looked like a wreck. I'll wait for you, she sniffled, trying one last time. I know you'll come back. I didn't even look at her. Don't hold your breath. I shut the door in her face, locked the deadbolt, and sat down in silence. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in her lies. I wasn't being used or played. Update turns out, my fiancé's brother was her ex. I kicked her out, and karma did the rest. Hey Reddit. I wasn't planning on posting an update, but a lot has happened since I kicked Sarah out, and I figured you all deserve to hear the end of this story. Karma's undefeated, and I didn't have to lift a single darn finger to get revenge. It came to me gift-wrapped, and I just sat back and enjoyed the show. I went full no contact with Sarah the night I threw her out. Blocked her number, blocked her on social media, and changed my locks. I figured she'd slink back to Mark and they'd live happily ever after in their weird little Lee-fueled relationship. Whatever, not my circus, not my monkeys. But karma, oh, it had other plans. About a month later, I ran into Katie, Sarah's former best friend, at the same coffee shop where I'd first learned the truth. Now, Katie is the kind of person who knows about everyone, and she couldn't wait to spill the tea. Apparently, Sarah's life had completely imploded since I kicked her out. First, she tried to move in with Mark. After all, he was her rock, her family, her everything, right? Well, turns out Mark wasn't sticking around for Sarah. He was sticking around for her money. You see, while I was covering all of Sarah's living expenses, she'd managed to save up a little cash from her old diner job, and guess what? She'd been funneling it straight to Mark. Groceries, rent when he was short, a brand new phone after his, broke, you name it, Sarah paid for it. She was basically Mark's sugar mama. The second I cut her off and she had no place to live, her savings disappeared fast. That's when she turned to Mark, probably thinking he'd let her stay with him. Except Mark, being the piece of work he is, flat out ghosted her, stopped answering her calls, blocked her on socials, and left her stranded. Katie told me Sarah had been couch surfing ever since, bouncing between old coworkers and barely scraping by. She was broke, alone, and miserable. And me, I couldn't stop smiling. I know that sounds cold, but come on, this was karma doing its thing, and I had front row seats. The guy she cheated with dumped her the second she couldn't fund his life anymore. You love to see it. Now here's where it gets even better. A week after hearing all this from Katie, I got a text from an unknown number. It was one of those long, rambling paragraphs, you know the kind. I knew it was Sarah before I even read it. Here's a highlight reel. I'm so sorry for everything. I know I messed up and I regret every I did. I don't have anyone else and I miss you so much. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Please give me a chance to explain and fix this. I'll do anything. Oh, now you miss me? Now I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. I didn't respond. Blocked the number. The next day, she tried calling from another number. I let it go to voicemail. Cue the crying, sniffly sobs and the whole "I don't have anyone else. Please don't abandon me like everyone else did" routine. I don't know what she expected. Did she think I'd hear her crying and just forget the months of lying, cheating, and gaslighting? I don't negotiate with manipulators. The cherry on the top came a couple of weeks ago. I was out grabbing groceries, just minding my own business, when I spotted her near the frozen food section. And let me tell you, she looked rough. Her hair was greasy, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had that hollow look people get when their life is in free fall. She saw me almost immediately and made a run toward me. "Hey," she said softly, her voice shaking. I gave her the kind of nod you give to a stranger you pass on the street. Sarah, her eyes welled up with tears. How have you been?" I smiled. "Fantastic." She flinched, and I swear I saw her lip tremble. "I miss you," she said. "I know I messed up. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. I've been thinking about us a lot, and I just want to fix it." I tilted my head like I was considering it. Yeah, I don't think so." Her face crumpled. "Please, I don't have anyone else. I didn't even feel bad. That's not my problem anymore, Sarah. You chose this. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie, and now you're dealing with the consequences." "I made a mistake," she said weakly. I smirked. "No, you made choices, and now you've got to live with them." I didn't wait for her to respond. I grabbed my cart, turned around, and walked away. So here I am now, Reddit. Sarah lost everything: her relationship with me, her weird manipulative hold over Mark, and any ounce of stability she had. She gambled thinking she could play both sides, and she lost spectacularly. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. I'm back at the gym catching up with friends I neglected during that train wreck of a relationship, and even dipped my toe back into dating. Life is peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like myself again. And the best part, I didn't have to lift a darn finger for revenge. Karma handled it for me, and it was beautiful to watch. Sarah thought I was some fool she could manipulate forever, but in the end, she played herself. Moral of the story: trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is, and never ever let someone gaslight you into ignoring your own instincts. Sarah. If you're out there reading this, I hope you enjoy couch surfing. You earned it.